So good afternoon again, everyone. Sorry, good evening. I think Africa, we are already in our evening time. And thank you so much for the warm welcome, Eric. I will be, before we start this session, please just know that I am more like not a facilitator, more like a moderator for this section. So I expect it to be very interactive, and I like the fact that we are from different African country. I try as much as possible to base my case study and everything that this review will be about on Africa, so that we don't need to go too far into the Western world, because their reality might not be our own. So please, let it be engaging. When there is a question, because there is discussion for each chapter. We are reviewing 1 to 5. And for each chapter, starting from chapter 2, there is a discussion after the summary that we just give. Then the discussion is majorly for everybody. Everybody is expected to contribute. And some particular chapter have, beyond the discussion, there's also a case study, just to have case study. The others is just discussion. So please, let it be as engaging as possible. And of course, there will be, hopefully, if we can finish early, there should be time for questions towards the end after the book review. Thank you again so much. So Erica has read my bio. I'll just skip that and go straight to the overview. Book overview. We'll be looking at chapter 1. That is, the chapter 1 is just the introduction of free market and telling us what the other chapter of the book will be about. Then in chapter 2, it's talking about the moral and economic benefit of freedom. Then we go straight to the chapter 3, that is looking at the institution of a free society. Then we have the chapter 4, equality and inequality. Then chapter 5, that talks about the free trade and free enterprise. Is there anybody on this call that has not read the book? Maybe with an emoji, if you've read the book, chapter 1 to 5. Let me just see you. Just put your favorite emoji. Let me see. Put it in the chat box, please, if you read the book. Just signify with an emoji. Is it that nobody on this call has read The Foundation of a Free Society? Okay, one person, Lawrence. Out of 25 people on this call, minus maybe from liberalists. Okay, even liberalists has read the book. So 3 people. Thank you so much, Caleb. Liberalists, thank you. Elisha, thank you. Nobody from Nigeria have read the book. Okay. I don't know if Cynthia Modi is from Nigeria, so I don't know. Okay. Thank you also. Okay, Kenya. So you just read 2 chapters, Amarachi. No, we need somebody to represent us. Zainab Ibrahim. I don't know if she's Nigeria.
She might be. I think she is. Okay.
So I'm glad that some of us on this call has read the books. And I just feel as if you read the book, you will it will give you better leverage to engage with our discussion. But I mean, if you've not read it, you can still learn along the way, since I'm still doing like summary of each chapter before we go to our discussion. Straight to the next. Yeah, chapter 1. As I said, chapter 1 is just about the introduction, foundation of a free society, the book, explore the principle that supports a liberal free society. And it also talks about the core idea of classical liberalism, a political and economic philosophy that focuses on individual rights, limited government, rule of law, free market. If you read the book, you will see this principle of liberalism there. The book also explains how a true society is meant to be, and how people should be treated as individual, not just as member of a group, and where their personal responsibility and voluntary cooperation are valued over state control, etc. The book also shows us that people, I think this is the first sentence in the book, in chapter 1, that actually got my attention. It shows that people as regarded restriction and control of their life and economic growth as natural and inevitable. And then when I saw this sentence, it just takes me back to the different way in which government have abused our liberty and our right, our freedom, and then we just take it as control. And we even have citizens that will I say encourage it and even defend those particular control of our life and economic growth. This is a nice quote I like from page 18 of the book. A clear vision of what freedom is and how it works is the foundation on which people can build a genuinely free society. And this was what the author wrote. When you have a clear vision of what freedom is and how it works, that is when you can actually build a genuinely free society. This statement begs the question of, do we even know what freedom is at all? If you read the book, you will actually have an idea of what the author is trying to say here. If you did not read the book, I would advise you to read it before our next class and also to listen to the summary. So, as I said, chapter 1 was just more about introduction of the book. Then we go to chapter... I'm trying to minimize this. Okay, this is chapter 2. Chapter 2, we'll be looking at the moral and economic benefit of freedom. I know if I ask what is freedom, literally everybody will have an idea of what freedom is. Freedom is the ability to do as you want, without restriction, without this, without that, do what you want, do what you want within the limit, etc, 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 etc. Literally everybody have an idea of what they think freedom should be. But personally, I like this particular statement of freedom in the book, that freedom means more than simply being imprisoned or enslaved. It means having the right to act, to speak, think as you choose without oppressive restriction imposed on you by others, including those in authority. Freedom is, when people look at freedom before now, they might see freedom as the ability to do whatever you want without restriction, meaning you're not in prison or a slave. But beyond that, freedom is also you having the right to act, the right to speak and think as you want. In as much as some thoughts can be so provocative, but still, that is the liberty and the freedom that the person have. And freedom also exists as long as other people right are not harmed. The book, this was one example in the book. Your right to swing your feet ends where another person's nose begins. Your right to do as you want in your compound ends in the boundary that your land, your building gives you. The moment you extend out of it, it's no more freedom. You're now oppressing another person's right. And freedom or liberty, which I also always use interchangeably, goes hand in hand with the no harm principle. The whole no harm principle talks more about others. You do not have the right. You have the right to do anything you want as long as it does not harm others. And while libertarians and classical liberalists define freedom, they always put that clause there, as long as it does not harm others. Your right to do whatever you want must not obstruct another person's right. The role of the government in a free society is to protect our rights against violation by others and to extend it where it does not fully exist, and enlarge it where it is incomplete. The role of the government in a free society is, if I ask everybody here, what is the role of the government? Let me see. Yeah, what do you think is the role of the government? And I want you to be very specific, beyond protect our freedom. Like, give us an example of what you think the role of the government should be. You can use the chat box, or you can just raise up your hand if Eric can help me notice if there's anybody that have their hands raised, so that you can. What do you think should be the role of the government, or personally from your own end, what do you think is the role of the government? Okay. Government role is to regulate. Regulate what? I say let us be very specific here. Well, we are all scholars or interested scholars. Let us be very specific. What? Regulate what? Is there any uphold the rule of law? Yes, thank you, Abby. I don't know if it's Abby or Abby. What I believe is to Lawrence. What I believe is to create a conducive environment for people to innovate, for people to be innovative. Okay, thank you. Theophilus, make, implement, and execute law and order. Thank you all so much. In a free society, maintain peace, order, ensure adequate security of life and property, secure life, property. Okay, thank you. You can keep it coming while I just move on for my own name. In a free society, the role of the government is to protect our freedom against violation by others. That is the role of the government. Meaning that the government is there to enforce that law when another person is right. Let's go to this third point. Freedom goes hand in hand with the no harm principle. The moment a party is exhibiting or enjoying their own freedom and liberty, and what they are doing is causing harm to other people, the government is meant to come in place and protect the other party's right against violation. That is literally what the government is expected to do, only in a free society. And this begs the question of, there are people that say that government should regulate, just like one of you put in the comment section. Government should regulate the economy, government should create more hospitals, government should do this, government should do that, and others. But in a free society, those are not the role of the government, or those are not the role of a government. The government is not expected to create hospitals or to go to the market and regulate it. The government is just there to make the environment conducive enough, safe enough, and is meant to make the environment conducive, safe, for people to be innovative, to create solutions to all of these problems. The government is not meant to create the solution in most cases. And the book also said that coercion is evil, except the restriction of aggressor might be a necessary evil. And one thing I think Butler, which was the author, make emphasis on was the fact that in as much as restriction of aggressor might still be needed and necessary, still we must work towards minimizing it. That people should not be forced to do what they do not want to do. The moral case for freedom is that it allows people to use their talent and ability as the same fate, which was the moral case of this particular chapter. When people ask what is the moral case of freedom, the moral case for freedom is that people are allowed to use their talent and ability as the same fate, not just for themselves, but for their family. In a free society, you are allowed to make money from your knowledge without any restriction. You're allowed to use your talent, and that is why in some countries that have an atom of freedom or free society, you will notice that in Nigeria, you might have an idea that, let's say in Nigeria, I notice that I have a great skill in being a rice farmer. I want to be farming I want to be doing rice farming. And then for you to, before I can become a legal farmer in the country, there might be some bureaucracy and also some license and permit I will have to do, I will have to get, etc, etc, etc. That along the way, I will even be asking myself, is it worth it, me going to become a rice farmer? Imagine, I remember I was talking with somebody from Malawi, sometimes, was it this Monday? And I was asking, what is one policy in Malawi that is against freedom and liberty? And he said in Malawi, one of the lucrative business is in marijuana, he mentioned, but that before people can farm on the land, that you have to get a permit, which is up to 3 million. I don't know their currency, but he said it was 3 million, that particular currency in Malawi. And that this particular restriction did not make a whole lot of poor farmers going into marijuana farming. I think it was marijuana. It was one of these this thing. So actually social drugs that some country have banned, but I think it was marijuana. And he said that is one issue they face that is against this thing, because people will not want to go into this particular type of farming, and the money is being lost, and it's a very, very lucrative business. In a free society, if I can have access to the knowledge of planting marijuana in a farm, that I should be able to do that. There's actually no reason why the government needs to regulate that. Most of this regulation, personally, I just think is all bureaucracy and the government wanting to monopolize it just for their own friends, which is something we notice in most African countries. They put a whole lot of restriction for people like you, I, and the average citizen in that country. A whole lot of restriction to business, to economic growth, not because they really, I think a particular chapter in the book also mentioned it, not because they really value the quality of the product being used or they are really concerned about the citizen, but more is because of the government's friends and family that they want them to just focus on it only. Which is something that in a free society should not happen, because in a free society, you and I should be able to use our ability as we want, not just for ourselves, but for our family and friends. People argue against free society and say, oh, free society makes you selfish, makes you individualism. And then Africans come up with this Ubuntu policy, I am because you are. We are collective in nature, we form community, etc, etc, which is actually true. We are Africans, if there's something that differentiates us from some countries or some continents, is the fact that we have this community kind of upbringing. My mom can decide, maybe my mom is not at home. If there's another person's parent, if they see me on the street, maybe rain is falling, somebody is definitely going to open their door for me. Bukola, come inside, rain is falling, don't you know, where is your mom? I will sit down, and probably if my clothes is wet, somebody's going to get me clothes. Like, that is how Africans are built. But that does not mean that free market free market does not recognize that. It just shows the fact that in as much as we understand the fact that there's this collectiveness in our continent, there's also the space for individualism there. And when you have free market or when you have a free society, whatever you're doing in the society is not just for yourself. It is also for your family, for your friends. If I decide to go into free economy, free market, sell goods, etc., I am doing that because maybe I want to feed my family. I am doing that. I am selling something because I want to bring value to myself, to my family, to my friend. It is not a self should I say when you are it is not the kind of individualism that these people against free society always bring, and be like, when you are bringing free society, they feel as if you are bringing kind of like an abomination to what is existing. If we look within free society, free market, these are things that we actually do within ourselves, but it's just not going accordingly as we want. Then we'll go, the next slide is, I was just able to bring out everything that the book was saying, chapter 1 to 5, about what free society relies on. The first thing is, free society relies on people willingly accepting rules that forbid exploitation and power and abuse of power. Free market is people coming together and accepting the fact that this particular rule forbids exploitation and abuse of power. It is people coming together, just like the lawyers, the judiciary come together and be like, the government or the president cannot make this particular law. It is unacceptable. Free market is voluntary cooperation as exchange, or free society. Sorry, I'm interchanging free market and free society. Free market is just one principle under the foundation of a free society. So free society is people coming together under voluntary cooperation and exchange. Free society is not forcing you to do cooperation just because you exist in a kind of continent that relates on community. It still allows you to have your individualism if that is what you want. And there's a place I also say, I think that should be the next point. I'm trying to look for it here. Free market allows you to choose, or free society allows you to choose whether to work and build your idea, your business on your own, or to form a partnership with somebody. And that is why I go to the fact that people that criticize free society are saying that you will not have community, etc. They are wrong. You can't force people to be in a community, but through voluntary cooperation and exchange, they can. Voluntary cooperation and exchange also appears in the free market. People decide to buy as they want. Nobody's telling them what to buy and not what to buy. Personally, if I go to a market and I want to buy, let me just say I want to buy a shoe, and somebody is telling me that, oh, this shoe is 20,000 naira. Voluntary cooperation and exchange will make me know whether I want to stay there or not. If 20,000 is above my budget, I go to the one that I can see as 15. And if I want to get a shoe that is more expensive beyond that, free society allows me to get the one that is very expensive. And that is why you get a research that read the same time, and another, should I say maybe a rich person is getting the same time, that read the same time like your own research, but they are getting their own in millions, and you are getting your own in thousands. That is free society. You choose what you want to. Nobody's forcing you to stick with the one in thousand if you want to go for the million, and nobody's telling you that you must go for the one with million if you want to go for the one with thousands. Free society also relies on basic trust. It is this trust I have in my vendor that makes me go to her and go and purchase shoe. The day that she makes me lose trust in her, and maybe I find out that she has been cheating me, I will stop buying with her, obviously, and move on. And that is what free society, the ability to stay with a particular thing or leave when you think. Nobody's forcing you or making a law that makes it difficult for you to leave somebody that is not giving you the trust you want. Free society also relies on protection of useful good. Protection of useful good goes straight with basic of trust. The more you produce as a producer, the more you get customers. The more you produce useful goods as a producer, the more you get more customers. And there is no government coming into play and, facilitating that process for you. You yourself are, I'm producing a useful good. Then when you produce something that is good, there's always a trust from your customer to you. when I newly came to Abuja here in Nigeria, I usually get my stuff, maybe my food stuff at market. But I think, was it last year or last 2 years, there was a woman that sells in front of my house. And she was like, oh, she also said this. I was like, eh. And then when I compared the price, it was literally almost the same with the market. And then I just decided to be buying from her from that day up to now. When I want to get some, maybe spaghetti, sugar, just some basic stuff, I don't need to go to the market again. And that is free market. She's giving me something useful. But the moment I start sensing that there is a high difference, maybe I'm talking with somebody and I find out there is high difference between what she's giving me and what I'm buying in the market, then there's an issue there. Free market also allows self-interest, whether individualism or with a partner, as I said. Free society allows you to pursue your self-interest. And the more, if you pursue your self-interest, the more you add to the economy. Free market is not, or free society is not relying on collectiveness, because who make this collective group? They are still individuals. So the only thing that is happening when you say collective interest is that a particular group of people in the collectivism, if I will put it like that, a particular group of person or a particular group of people, their own interest is being override over others. So is it really collectiveness? When your own interest, you are suppressing it so that another person's interest that have been voted by the majority as the right one. Free society relies on legal rules about ownership, control, and transfer of property. Free society relies on the government to protect ownership of properties and private properties. Free society also relies on rule of law, civic rights, tolerance of people. Free society relies on citizens to be tolerative of each other, because everybody comes from different background, different background, gender, race, etc., religion, culture. Free society relies on the rule of law and competition to try to drive away chronic capitalism and exploitation. Monopoly, competition. Free society relies on competition to balance the market. With competition, market will be balanced. The supply and demand principle will always adjust the market. So this is our discussion for chapter 2. Can a society truly be free if the government dominates our economic and social life? Please, I just need 1 or 2 persons. This is our discussion for chapter 2. So this is time for us to talk. And if you want to use the chat box, let me know. But can a society truly be free if our government dominates our economy and social life? In your own words, there are people that believe in free society and at the same time believe that government should dominate economy and social life. And they think that we can still achieve the freedom we so desire. Do you think it is possible from your own end?
Hi, fellows. Please, you're free to unmute your mic. Just raise up your hand and we'll give you access to talk. This is an open discussion, so everybody, don't use the chat box. You just have to talk. It's good that we hear your thoughts, we hear your words, not just putting it on the chat box. This is a time for you to engage and let us know that you're really getting the information from this class. So please, let's see the first person to go, just raise up your hand and you're free to speak.
I just also want to add that this is not a right or wrong answer. Remember, it's a book review. We're all reviewing what the author wrote. And we want to see how feasible what they wrote is to our own reality. Yes? Caleb?
Yes, hi.
Hi,
Hello.
I can hear you. Good evening.
Okay, thank you so much. Good evening. So I think this is actually a very interesting question because there has to be some sort of moderation, some sort of law and order for this economic transformations to really happen and for us to have really good social life. And this law and order has to be really be put in place by the government. So I think I'd say yes, and also I'd say no. So it's a 50-50 kind of discussion, because any thriving society, that a society that thrives economically, socially, or whichever way, thrives because there are some laws that are there. So we can only be good if we really maintain law and order, even in business, even everywhere. So it's a tricky question, to be honest, but yes or no.
Thank you so much, Caleb. Yes, Sani Modibo.
Good evening, all. Thank you very much for this wonderful lecture. And this question is actually interesting, and it actually provides multiple ways of answering. So I will go by saying it depends on the system of government or the type of country. For example, if the country is actually homogeneous, maybe 80 or 90% of the people are the same people. Maybe, for example, countries like Brunei, countries like Saudi Arabia, countries like China, I think there's no problem when the government dominates economic and social life of the because it's going to be protective and considerate. But when you're talking about countries like Nigeria, which is heterogeneous, diversity in religion, tribes, and so on, and I think it's not going to work 100%. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sani. Quickly, Aziz Suleiman. That will be the last for chapter 2. We still have 2 more chapters, so everybody will still be able to talk. Suleiman, can you unmute yourself, please?
Okay, thank you so much. Am I audible?
Your mic is kind of low.
Okay, what about now? Am I audible?
You are, but it's still low. Just go on.
Okay, thank you very much. So, to be more blunt, for me, I don't think a society can truly be free if the government dominates its economic and social life, because freedom in society is something that depends on pluralism. The idea that individual groups and institutions should be able to
I think I lost Suleiman. Am I the only one?
Dominate the economic and social life of society. You see that the society will enter into a phase whereby economic domination will reduce individual freedom. There will be social domination that will reward civil.
Okay, I think we lost Suleiman, but I think his own answer was no. Thank you all so much for your contribution. As I said, there is no right or wrong answer, but looking at the scenarios of our country and our continent, and let us be sincere with ourselves as Africa, do you think if African government decide to dominate economic and social life, now I don't want you to talk, I just want your yes or no, do you think Africa can truly be free if the type of government we have currently, not the one we're praying for in the future, but currently your government in Kenya, in Nigeria, in other countries, if your government decides to dominate their economy, your economy and your social life, do you think that society can be free? Do you think that you can be free to do as you want as Africans? Thank you all so much. That answered the question. We'll move to the next one, chapter 3. This will not be that long before we move to the discussion. But chapter 3 is the institution of a free society. And this was the key point and summary for chapter 3. People in a free society are not isolated. And I'm just going to read out a particular passage of the book that I really love. People in a free society are not isolated individuals. On the contrary, they are social creatures. They seek out the companies of others, try to fit in with others, and collaborate with others in many ways. They might be active members of their religious group in clubs and societies. They associate with people who enjoy the same thing that they do, whether it is singing, cooking, fishing, playing, or watching football, or collecting. They associate and form groups with others like themselves, whether they are young, old, schoolmates, new parents, or people with similar disability. They may run soup kitchen or hotel for needy and unlike people. This is what is called a civil society. In a free society, people are not isolated, contrary to the opinion that people want. But in a free society, people are free to choose exactly what and who they want to be, exactly who they want to associate with, which club they want to join. Nobody's forcing them in a free society. Also, government controls specific sector. Government controlling specific sector result in shortage in needed goods or high production of necessary goods. One point that the book also raised in 34 was the need to limit the government controlling or the government interference in economy. Because when government controls specific sector, it results in shortage, in needed goods or high production of unnecessary goods. And we're going to see a case study, I think, after this chapter, of few examples of policies that government have put in some countries that for them to control the sector, and then it results in shortage and also production of necessary goods. Also, this particular chapter touched on subsidizing any form of production, take resources to the sector and away from the producer. That is what subsidizing does in a free society or in a non-free society. What we do when we subsidize and when countries subsidize is that it takes resources from the sector and away. It takes resources to the sector and away from the producer. I know that it's a very tricky question in Africa, even in Nigeria here, about subsidy. It depends answer on subsidy, or is a case by case kind of answer for people in Africa, because Africans believe that there are some things that should be. I'm sure that some Nigerians currently, after they remove subsidy, are still interested in first subsidy coming back. So it's a very, very tricky answer. And if we look at it on a longer run, if we're having good government that were very accountable, and we are sure that exactly what the income for the subsidy they were using for the subsidy will be utilized into other particular sector, truly we might be able to grow our economy. But it's just the fact that we in Africa here, we are faced with corruption. I mean, other countries have it, but the good thing for them is the fact that they are developed. So when the corruption even happens, you might not notice that way. But in Africa here, there's corruption. African leader depends on hate, like their life depends on hate. Let's not go there. But yeah, in a free society, you need to look for a way to limit the interference of the government. And one of the ways to limit the government is the adoption of the constitutional agreement. I think somebody mentioned the rule of law. We need to adopt a constitutional agreement that states clearly what the government are meant to do. And there should be check and balance, separation of powers. There should be. It's so unfortunate that we are in an era where our judiciary is not as independent as they're supposed to be. I really do not want to use the word they are not. I don't want to cancel them totally, because I noticed that I think there are lawyers on this call. But yeah, I don't want to use the word they are not. But I'm going to say it's so unfortunate that they are not as independent as we expect them to be. And therefore, there's nobody checking the balance and the power that the governments are exhibiting. Adoption of constitutional agreement is important to limit the interference of government. Separation of power is important. The executive should be different from judiciary, should be different from the executive, judiciary, and legislative. They should be performing different functions. But we live in a society where it seems everybody is now following just the word of the executive, and they are not being independent, no check and balance again. And of course, another way to limit it is through democracy, the rule of law. And that is what chapter 3 is about. And for people, there are people that ask, why do we want to limit the government? The truth is the fact that the government, when you give the government a form of power, which was mentioned in the book also, when you give the government a form of power, the truth is that the government tends to go beyond that. And the government do not, when the government is executing some of their laws and power, they pass their boundary, one. Number two is the fact that they use force to implement whatever they are doing. If you notice government, it is always with force. I think one way we're supposed to also put here is maybe the need for media, also ways to limit the government. But yeah, media is not as safe as we think they are in our country again. So for chapter 3, we'll be looking at this will be our discussion. Why should government be limited? And what do you think is... Okay, I think I've started this particular question with this section. I started with what is the role of the government also. So why do I feel as if I've answered why government should be limited? Okay, I'm going to rephrase this question. In your country, let's personalize it. Why do you think the government should be limited? And if you think the government should not be limited, why? If you want to answer, let me see your hands up so that we can... I'm trying to check the time. I don't want us to spend a whole lot of time. Mercy. Yes, please. Mercy, unmute yourself, please.
Okay. Thank you. This is Mercy from Kenya.
Okay.
The question says that why should government action be limited and what is the role of the government? I think the government should be limited because they sometimes overstep. And into government, we have so much corruption. That things don't go the way they are supposed to be going.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mercy. Yes, Sunny. Okay.
Yes. The government is going to act or is acting based on the design constitution, and the constitution of every government, I think, already designed the role of all parts of the government. Their roles has been designed, and they shouldn't go beyond that. I think that should be the limit. The constitution should guide the leadership and the roles. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Theophilus. That will be the last person for this chapter. As I said, there are more chapters, so we can take others. Yes, Theophilus, unmute yourself.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, basically, limiting the role of the government is essential to ensure that the government does not dominate all sectors, like you mentioned earlier, the economy, civil society, as well as the media. Because when the government actually dominates this sector, it creates a vacuum or gap for political elites to enrich themselves, as well as to enrich themselves basically at the expense of the people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Theophilus. Thank you so much. And therefore, the government should be limited to their own responsibility. They should not be found in other responsibility that citizens can take care of them. And there's a particular statement in the book that I really found very, very interesting that says that how can you say that the people have the freedom to pick their leaders and you do not trust them to be able to pick exactly what they want or choose what they want? If you can trust them collectively to be able to I think I wrote it in one of the chapter. If you can trust them collectively to be able to vote in the person they want to represent them, why can you not trust them to be able to pick who or what they want to do? So it's kind of like an hypocrisy there if we look at it critically. The next, this is our first case study. So the first case study is the Ethiopia price control that took place in 2011. So in 2011, the Ethiopia government decided to put a price control on some of the essential food items because they said it was expensive, like the meat, the bread, the rice, the sugar, etc. Just food items, some food items. And they did that because they wanted to control and stabilize the food prices, make it affordable for low-income people, according to them. But there was consequences to this. And this is something that when we are putting in policies, you need to look at the after effect and imagine how it will be. If the person that came up with the policy thought of the after effect, they might not have come up with this policy. Instead, what they did was, what consequence that happened was the fact that there was market shortage, and there was increased inflation and dissatisfaction among customers and even producers. There was a particular Ethiopian person that they interviewed, and she was like, when this policy came to place, when she went to the supermarket person, like, the supermarket has removed egg from the shelf. They have removed egg, they have removed milk and others. And then they were left with items there that they were not interested in. And she was like, at least before the price control, these items were there and they could get it. But now that the price control, they've removed it, because if they sell it as a particular price that the government wants, unfortunately, they will not be able to make any gain. That is the producer or the owner of the supermarket. So what they did was to remove it. Now there's shortage and there's a lot of unuseful items there that people do not need. And that is what price control does. That is what price control does. And what the government did was to implement another alternative measure that will address inflation. What they did when they noticed this particular consequence that they never foresee was to now do tax exemption and import subsidy. So there was exemption for tax, people importing food items, etc. They put tax exemption because sometimes when there's when there's inflation or high price of goods in market, most times it's because of the tax, especially if they're importing it. So what they did was to remove that tax, and automatically you will see the resumption you want when you remove that. You do not set price control of food items. It has never worked I don't think it has worked. I mean, I'm still looking for examples of price control that have actually worked the way the government intended. The next one straight is the equal. We have one chapter left. Chapter 4 talks about the equality and inequality, and these were some key points there. But chapter 4, it looks at equality before the law is essential in a free society. Everybody must be treated the same way by the legal system. In a free society, everybody is equal before the law. Nobody is above the law. But I doubt it is that way in our country, because I think some of our leaders are very, very above the law. Even the president has it in the constitution that if you are the leader, you cannot be. If you are the president, I don't think you can be tried for any crime as long as you are still the president. So equality before the law is a good concept, which is essential in a free society. And in a free society, a fair society ensures equal opportunity, not equal result. And when we talk about equality, people see equality with result. Equality is not the result, but the process is equal for everybody. The process is just and fair for everybody. There's equal access to opportunity. Because I am a lady and Eric is a man does not mean that when we're going for a job opportunity, I should not be given the equal opportunity to also be interviewed. And then the only reason why I'm not qualified is because of my gender. If I am to apply for a job, because I am a black person and then there's a white person, does not mean that the white person will be the one that will be interviewed and I will not be interviewed. But that does not mean that we will have equal results. What I mean by that is they should be giving us equal opportunity to show our talent and our ability. The result should be based on our talent and merit. And it should be based on, was I able to achieve it or not? Did the company not pick me because I was not fit and maybe the white person was more? And this is what a fair society is about. It's not the equal result. It's the equal opportunity, a fair opportunity. Also, there were 4 equality that the book mentioned. The moral equality, everybody is human being and they should be given the basic human rights and should be given access, not even given access, they should be able to enjoy their basic human rights, because it's something that you have as soon as you're born. Then we have equality before the law. Everybody is equal before the law. Nobody is above the law. There's political equality. Everybody is allowed to vote and be voted for if they want. That does not mean that everybody, of course, will be elected. Election will be based on people's demand. But political equality is saying that I should be allowed, based on my religion, I should be allowed to vote. Or my religion should not be the reason why I should not vote. And my religion should not even be the reason why I should vote. I should be allowed equal political equality. Then equality of opportunity. We say everybody should have access to that opportunity. The result might not be what I want, yes, but at least I was given the opportunity. Outcome inequality. Yes, a difference in income or wealth is natural and often a result of freedom and personal choice. Egalitarians believe that everybody should have equal income and wealth, which unfortunately might not be possible. In fact, not even will not be possible. Because if you say everybody should have equal access to, should have equal wealth, are you going to, if I am being paid 100,000 and then Eric is being paid 100,000 and Eric decides to spend his whole lavishly and I decide to invest mine and then was able to get more profit on it and build my wealth. In as much as we are being paid the same, we still cannot have, even as much as we have the same income, we unfortunately cannot have the same wealth, which is what the book was arguing for or against, that it's not possible that people, you will say people will have the same word. The only way you can keep me to steal the 100K like Eric is that the profit I have accumulated, you are still going to steal it from me and distribute it again to Eric. And then, is that a fair society? I work for my money, we receive the same income, I invested mine, and that is egalitarian. They believe that everybody should be equal. They should not be poor person. But unfortunately, the world cannot exist like that, because people are different with ideology. There are some people that have been built to invest. You can't tell them that after investing and you have money, we'll distribute the money again to other people. Then there will not be growth, because I will not even be motivated to work again when I know that somebody else will be. And so also is equal income. If you say everybody should have equal income, then nobody will want to upgrade themselves. A lot of us on this call, we are taking courses. We take extra courses, data analysis, content creation. You take courses, Google course, so that when you are applying for something, you can show them that, I have qualification in this course, and then you can be able to raise your salary. But when egalitarians say, we must all have equal income, that means that they are not motivated to build myself and better myself. Because the reason why I am bettering myself, I want to better myself, and it's because I want to be able to get a job that will pay me more. So inequality, egalitarian feels like when we have this particular balance, then we can solve inequality. But unfortunately, you can't solve inequality that way. The next point is attempt to enforce political equality often lead to coercion, loss of freedom, and inefficiency. Inefficiency in the sense that people will not be built and interested again in building themselves, because as I said, we are still going to get equal income. So what is the use of me building myself when I know that if I have the 0 certificate, I will still be paid 100K. If Eric gather 24 certificate, he will still pay 100K. We are still in the same 100 scale. So voluntary action and merit-based success create productive inequality, create productive and merit-based success create productive inequality that drives innovation and progress. When there's voluntary exchange and merit success and merit-based success, naturally it will drive inequality in economy. And why is that? Is because when it is based on merit-based, that is why everybody currently is struggling to have more certificates, more than their...
Wait. Okay.
Who is talking? More than their university certificates. They know that the more certificate and experience they have, the more they will get paid more income, and that's why people struggle for that. So when there's competition and merit-based success like that, it drives productivity, it drives inequality, it drives innovation for people. And that is how we we might not be able to get that equal in the economy, but to an extent, everybody can survive based on what they have. Then there is this, I just put this point, positive and negative discrimination. And for positive and negative discrimination, it's a tricky question I want to ask before we go to our discussion. Positive discrimination is more like this affirmative actions that says that positive discrimination is like affirmative action, particular percentage of women, let's say in Rwanda, is this 35% of women must be in political position in Rwanda. And also in some, I think, except now that Trump have removed the DEL, diversity, equality, and inclusion policy. But also the positive discrimination also relates to the Black people in a white mark country, saying that there must be a particular percentage, this that protect or allow Black people to be given more jobs, and also the ones that specially make provision for women to be accepted into programs, schools, or job. Like specially, you see some programs, even some application, they will say it is for this particular set of people. And then we have the negative discrimination, which is, of course, the negative one, that people are treated unfairly and denied opportunity just because of their identity, race, gender, ethnicism, or culture, religion, etc. That is the negative discrimination. The normal one, that people are treated unfairly because of this. And then there's the one they call positive. And I want to ask, do you see, because the author Butler says that when you do the positive discrimination, the book argues that, of course, negative discrimination is unjust, but positive discrimination can also be problematic if it treats people unequally based on group rather than individual merit. Instead, free society shows that everybody should be treated equally under the law. From your own thought and school of thought, do you think the positive discrimination might actually be problematic? I mean, beyond race and gender, also know that positive discrimination can be Nigeria government saying, for this particular role, we must have 30% Yoruba people, 30% Igbo people, 30% Hausa, 30% Ebira, 20, like especially making provision from a set of for some particular group of people, maybe because they have been marginalized for a long time. Do you think it's something that should be removed in a free society, and you think it's not necessary, or do you think it's something that should actually be there? I want to see your hands before we go to the discussion. Yes, Fahad Ali.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. So for me, I just feel like, okay, the positive discrimination is actually another gap, another load on the free society, because when we talk about, it's not just only about equality, but we have to look at the same time the importance of equity. So if we say that, okay, because of this society they are being marginalized and other things, but we are looking for, performance and merit-based result, actually I think that should be removed, actually, because we should look at merit, and at the same time people that are, that needed it most. Because sometimes if we say we would divide resources based on equality, we might find out, some people do not have enough to solve their own problem. So I think equity should be the most key important than the equality for me. In fact, to say, let me just put it that way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fahad. Who else has comments? Okay, so I'll just move on. Thank you so much. Personally, it's a tricky one for me as someone that really, really believes in the affirmative action, especially for women. As I said, if we were to pick people based on the merit-based success, let's say there's a community where, because of their tribe, for instance, assuming just the Yoruba tribe are not allowed to go to school because of their tribe, like they are discriminated in furthering their education because of their tribe. And then we are still saying we should pay people based on merit-based success. How can the Yoruba people be allowed into that system? Already, inequality has made them be discriminated, that they cannot go to school. Now it reached a time for them to get a job. You are saying you want to pick based on merit-based success. Is it going to be possible? And the same thing goes to the women and also the race biases that we have. As a Black person, you already know that it's like -1 for you when you're in this world. and then you go to a world where they receive like merit-based success, even though you have the skills, do you think that the system there without positive discrimination? I mean, there's no right or wrong answer here. Everybody have their bias here. Do you think because of the bias that is in that particular company as a Black person, do you think they will even give you the chance to even be interviewed first? Normally, in a free society, everybody might not be in the same gap of knowledge, but at least everybody have access to it. In cases where inequality or due to your own religion, gender, you have already been segregated, discriminated already, how can you merit up if there are not some intentional things put in place to be able to give you access to it? This is a question where we should be asking ourselves. Then we go straight to our discussion, which is, should government prioritize reducing inequality or protecting individual freedom, even if it leads to unequal outcome? Do you think your government should prioritize inequality or they should protect individual freedom? Protecting individual freedom might lead to unequal outcome, definitely. But which do you think the government should do and why? Any comments? I'm waiting. Let me see your hands up if you want to speak, please. Let me see your hands. Nobody is speaking. Yes, Caleb.
Yeah, I think the government should prioritize reducing inequality because in an equal society, almost everything works. So it's to me it's a no-brainer. If you're all equal and getting the best from the government without any discrimination, then there's some issues that we won't be even talking about, or the government will not be so much concerned about individual freedom and everything else, because there is equity and everybody knows that they're taken care of. Everybody knows that they get what they deserve and that their rights are actually protected. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Caleb. Yes, Kennedy.
Good evening. I think government coming in terms of reducing inequality, protecting individual freedom, I think it's very important where, especially in terms of justice, where a lot of people, because of poverty, they don't have access to legal representation.
So which do you think government should go for? Inequality or protecting individual rights?
Protecting individual rights by providing like a legal provision.
Okay. Thank you so much. Yes, Lawrence. Your network, I can't hear you.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, better now. I still cannot hear you. Can you use it? Yes.
Okay, yeah. So
go on.
I think freedom leads to opportunity, where I think we're talking about there is first where people, I think, treated different skills, choices, and ambitions, right? Inequality isn't always unjust, though I feel the government should focus more on providing individual freedom. Because I think so a key question maybe that we can ask is, should we all be equally poor under a government control, or should we all be unequally free with a chance to rise? I think maybe that's the point where I'm looking at it as well.
Thank you Thank you so much, Lawrence. Thank you all for your answers. So, in a free society, and a society that will grow in the economy, government will have to prioritize protecting individual freedom. When you protect individual freedom, you can reduce inequality. Because, we have inequality in our African society because individual freedom is not protected. That is why you as an average citizen, a politician can literally torment you and your family to sell your land they are not interested in selling, because there's no property protection for you. If there was property protection that is upheld by the government, no person will be treating you that way just because you're an average person. If the government is protecting our individual freedom, if the government is protecting my rights to walk as I to speak and act as I want, to build business as I want, there will not be monopoly. There will be reduction. Okay, let me not say there will not. There will be reduction in monopoly. There will be reduction in inequality, because my individual right to establish my business is being protected. I can build a business I want. As I build the business, I can also employ more people to it. When government focus on reducing inequality without looking at protecting individual freedom, they create more inequality. So look around you and just think about you. The different times that the government have tried to reduce inequality, have they? Even in Africa, we tell ourselves, if there's more business, there will actually be more people that will work and people will be able to provide for themselves. Government do not need to do that. Government do not need to provide food for me. If I can still work, I can literally feed myself. And as soon as I start feeding myself, inequality starts reducing. And that is what we need to start looking at. Government needs to focus on protecting individual rights and their property rights. And then we have the fifth chapter, which is enterprise and trade. And these were the key points in the chapter. Free enterprise allow people to pursue their interests, innovate and create value through voluntary exchange. This is common with us. Literally all market deals with voluntary exchange. I go to the market, I want to buy mango, I see a very ripe mango, I see an unripe mango. I can literally choose whatever I want to do. It allows people to pursue their interests. Consumers or producers pursue their interests. They are innovative. You can see different people selling fruits, but each of them are innovative in how they sell their fruits. Some people can deliver to you at home. Some people don't do home delivery. Some people, you find their shop in the market. Some people have shop virtually. If you are the type that don't like getting, because of trust issue, you don't like getting something virtually, you can literally get it online. You can literally get it physically in your market. If you can't get it physically in market, maybe because of distance, you can order it online. So this is what free enterprise allow, free trade. Trade also benefits all parties involved. It allows people to specialize in whatever they do and do it best. Market works best when there's competition and monopolies are limited. That's what I keep saying. When there is competition, monopoly will be reduced. But we have monopoly because the government favors their friends and their colleagues. And then when there's a politician that is building a car, what the government do, when they have this kind of rapport, the government will make life frustrating for another person that want to come into the market. The government is not going to tell you directly that don't go to the market. They are going to make laws. That is why you'll be needing millions to buy permits. You'll be needing millions for regulation. They will ask you for this, they will ask you for that, knowing the fact that you're just upcoming and you might not have the money. But it's just a way to just frustrate you. out of the market to make the market, to monopolize the market for their own colleagues and friends. Government interference, excessive regulation, tariff and subsidy can also distort the market and harm consumer. When there's excessive regulation, it can harm consumer, meaning when there's excessive regulation, there will be low competition into the market because there's too much of regulation and other producers might not want to come into the market. And that way, the quality of stuff might reduce, and also it will even be high. You will be spending, maybe to buy a bottle of water, you'll be spending 500 naira because there's not a whole lot of person doing it. But now when you want to buy bottle water, you can go to the supermarket, you will see the one of 200 from a company, you see the one of 250, 300. People go for their choice. When there's also tariff and subsidy, it can also help consumer. The entrepreneurship drives economic progress and prosperity in a free society. Government needs to be intentional about entrepreneurship and making regulation easy for people just entering the market. Protectionism, harm growth, and limit choice. When the government says they want to protect maybe consumers, it will harm growth and limit choice. Free market encourage peace and mutual benefit across each nation. This is our last discussion. I think there is a particular case study after this. Should government protect local industry at the cost of consumer choice and international trade relationship? From your own angle, do you think your government should protect local industry like maybe the rice being produced in Kenya? Government should prioritize that and close the border for the importation of rice so that they will protect the local industry. Let me see. Kennedy, is your hands raised up before? Do you want to speak now? Okay, thank you. So let me see your comments. Let me see your. Okay, Fahad.
Okay, thank you again for giving me the chance to talk. Based on globalization and also trading, I think just protecting your local industry shouldn't be a case for you to lock down your country. It's the choice of the people, actually. If we can get this thing cheaper, and we can just think of where we can able to take our comparative advantage to share trade within other nations on what they don't have and what we don't have to, and then share it. Locking down your country or putting tariff just to protect your industry ended up making making even things to be more inflated than before. So I don't think that it's necessary for you to lock down your country just to protect your local industry. That is my own view.
Thank you so much, Fahad. Yes, Amarachi.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so I think that local production should be prioritized, right? Of every country that wants to really thrive. And the funny or important part of local production being prioritized is the fact that if you must trust your borders, you don't want imports of foreign products as against your own, right? Then you have to do everything possible to ensure that you have the atmosphere for your people to be able to locally produce what will be enough for the for consumption exactly. So for instance, you come to Nigeria and the local terrain when it comes to business is not thriving as it should be. It would be unwise for the government to, I'm sorry about the background noise, sorry. So it would be unwise for the government to shut down the border, right? And say they are protecting the local, traders or local production. So if you're talking about local production being prioritized, we should see visible steps as to the security, especially for agriculture. areas that have that of their comparative advantage are secured. They can access their farmlands and everything is going on well for them. They are producing exactly the one that is commensurate to consumption, and not only consuming, you can now comfortably export them. So it will be so unwise to shut the borders if your people are not doing well locally. And for them to do well locally, you need to do better as a government. So for that shutting of borders and protection of the local production, that's beautiful, right? It's great. But for you to do that, let mechanisms that would thrive be in place already. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amarachi. Emmanuel.
Good evening, everyone. In my own view, I don't believe government should protect local industry at the cost of the consumer's choice. Individual choice matters, because what if the local industry are not producing quality stuff? For example, in Nigeria, when we started producing local rice, we noticed that some of these rice even find stones in this rice, and at some point it could even lead to health complications because they are not producing the quality product. So I think the consumer's choice should be the topmost protection that the government should prioritize. That's my own view.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel. Because this is the last one, I'll take Theophilus too. Yes, Theophilus.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Yeah, I actually want us to understand the fact that protection of local industry at first can foster economic independence as well as generate employment. But that aside, now protecting local industry at the extent of consumer, let's say Nigerians' rights, Nigeria consumer right to choice is actually very risky because of the fact that it does not really affect. It doesn't affect the consumer alone in this sense. It's also discourage maybe direct foreign investments. It reduces access to global opportunity and market, and even isolate Nigerians from other global opportunity. That's just it. So what I feel the government should do in this sense is just to strike a balance in policy to ensure that it support both local industries as well as the foreign investors, so that the market will be open for everyone and everyone will be able to compete. It will be open for everyone so that everybody will be able to compete as well as bring in their innovation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sorry, I'll not be able to take orders because we've used our time already. So I'll just quickly move to this. This will be the last case study before I close my section for today. Thank you all for your participation so far. So the second one is the border closure. If you notice, most Nigerians, this was one example they were using, and that is because everybody literally could remember what happened in the border closure that took place in Nigeria in 2019 during Muhammad Buhari's time, I think. Yeah. So before this border closure, one story I always tell people during, please can you mute yourself, Theophilus and Emmanuel? One story I always tell people is before this border closure, my mom was somebody that loves local rice. In fact, local rice was literally common to her. There are some people that it was when the border closure took place that they actually even know what local rice was. Most of them did not know. But my mom was somebody that knows what local rice is. When we go to market, she loves buying local rice. But when I'm going back to school, she gets me the foreign rice. And there's a particular customer she goes to. She will tell me that, oh, this particular one have sand, that this particular customer, you can't get sand in his rice. Then when this border closure took place, even the customer that sells local rice to my mom that is without sand and stone, him himself could not get good rice again in the market. He said that then when my mom bought more rice from him after the border closure, the rice started there was a whole lot of stand. And then she was asking, what happened? I mean, your rice was one of the good ones, and that was why she used to. And it was like, when this border closed, that a lot of people are just doing rice anyhow, that it was even hard for him to be able to get good rice. It's hard for people to get good local rice. And I usually stay with my uncle during short break in school. And him himself, his family takes foreign rice. Then when this local rice border closure and they have to start eating local rice, it was complaining that local rice, for them, that was the first time they were experiencing local rice, because they always take foreign rice. And then the first experience they have is local rice having sand. My mom has been eating local rice before, and she doesn't experience this local rice. You have to wash it, you have to check very well. She does not, because she has a particular person she goes to, and the local rice do not used to have sand. But when border closure, government were thinking that closing the border will encourage local production. But instead, consumers were getting messed up rice in the market. A lot of people were getting rice that there was a whole lot of sand that can affect your health, rice that were not properly processed and made. What the government was supposed to do was to even make the environment conducive and maybe make the equipment for processing of rice even available for this thing that people can easily use or have. But no, they went straight to the closing of border, and closing of that border it was a messed up goose of rice. And Nigerians that can remember the border closure news, that buying rice there was, you have to have superpower to know the right rice to buy in the market. You have to have superpower before you can get quality rice in the market. But also, even the border closure, there were still people within Nigeria eating foreign rice. Black market, there was rice in black market. People smuggle rice into the country, which is dangerous because you don't even know where that rice is coming from. Government that were supposed to check all of this importation of goods to ensure that goods come in and not substantial. I think somebody mentioned it. Goods, this thing that were not substantial and were good, could not, because people are not bringing it in legally again. They're not bringing it illegally. And then even the people in power could still afford to eat foreign rice. I mean, they could bypass the law and eat their foreign rice. So there was a whole lot of messed up. And this is what happened when government put their hands in the market. They disturb and disrupt the normal process of the market, where demand and supply was supposed to, we naturally adjust the market. When government put their hands into it, this is what happened. Inflation. Rice was very expensive then, like more than the foreign rice that people were even buying at that particular point before they closed the border. Local rice was very expensive. It was not well processed. There was a whole lot of sand, and a whole lot of people did not like it. Some of the rice, when you cook it, it just melts anyhow inside the pot. And this is everything that happened when government put their hands inside market, when they ought to just make the environment conducive for everybody to be able to buy and sell their right product. Thank you all so much for listening. I'm sorry I was unable to take a whole lot of comments from the chat. I have used 36 minutes out of my time. I was given just 1 hour. So thank you all so much for your time. It's been amazing. And I don't know if we have time for question and answer, but let me just hand it over to Eric first. Eric.
All right, thank you so very much, Bukola. I think it's been an amazing session with you and also with everyone on the call. We've seen a whole lot of comments on the chat box. We've seen a whole lot of insight sharing and all of that. That's really fantastic. It shows that we went ahead to read the book and also to come with different insight, different perspective to how the discussion should go. Well done, everyone.